This machine drives me insane. Yeah, it's pretty temperamental. I mean, you get it going. Once we have this thing dialed in, I think it's going to be fantastic, but it's been driving me insane. My name is Zak Sally. I'm a cartoonist. I run a small publishing company called Lamano 21. I'm also a musician sometimes, as well as a teacher. Lamano, the more it progresses, is just about getting something into the world that feels like that there's some sort of personality there. You know, somebody put in time to make this thing happen, and you can. That's as important to me as you know, the material that's in there. That's like somebody made this with their hands, and I mean, I love it to death. I love it so much that all this stuff happened. You know, this is all the stuff that I've put out on Lamano. Some of it I printed, some of it I didn't, some of it I partially printed. And actually, I started the label in the early 90s with a friend of mine, and back when it kind of came from the music world where a label was like, it just sort of was a signifier of this thing that you did. When I was a teenager, it was always like, oh, I'll get somebody to publish me someday. And that being like, I'll put out stuff and then someday some real publisher will publish me. And the more time went on, the more I realized there isn't any real publisher. It's like you either get it done or you don't get it done. So the stuff I put out in Lamano, the more I like it, the more it doesn't seem to be one thing or the other. You know, is it a comic book? Is it a book? Is it not a book? Is it a memoir? I don't know what it is, but the more of that stuff, the more it kind of goes in between those things, the happier I am, the more indefinable the thing is. Just, this is a great thing and it should be out in the world. I put out a record of my own stuff last year. Oh, that's upside down. Yeah, some of it I actually even made in this room, like recorded some of it. I got everything I need right here in my mouth. That time I told her. From 1993 to 2005, I played bass with a band called Low, which were some friends of mine from Duluth that I had known for a long time. They're still a band. 2 years ago, for some reason that I can't entirely figure out, I decided to make a record just to see if I could do it. Just playing all the instruments and writing the songs and singing it all and recording it all myself. The last couple of years I've been teaching full-time at MCAD in town, which is one of the only schools that has a comics program.
Working with Zak Sally has been such a pleasure. I wish I could just like clone him and make, you know, like make 100.
We're the style you usually draw in, and then this new like cartoony style, which is hitting the rails pretty hard, you know, in the spots where it comes together, where that is just...
There's something in his own work that I think is really special. The writing has something more behind it than just sort of the surface appearance. And he's been able to sort of generate that from the students.
The thing that I get in there and try and tell them, which is more than any kind of technical knowledge of like, you need to do this and you need to do this and you need to do this, you need to develop a voice that is as much your own as you can make it, and try and be as honest as you're able with that voice. This whole area is for my cartooning. If I kind of separate out my life in that way. I started working on this story that I was hoping I was going to finish in 10 years, but it's going to take longer than 10 years. It's called Sammy the Mouse. The third issue of my comic, Sammy the Mouse, came out a couple months ago. It's one long, continuous story that has a beginning and a middle and an end, and I'm just kind of trying to spend as much time as possible at getting that thing out and finishing it. Sammy the Mouse is kind of an alcoholic He likes to stay at home a lot and just kind of wants to be left alone, but the whole story is about how that's not necessarily what happens, and you don't necessarily get to decide things like that.
I think the artwork of Zak is very independent, art-centered. It's not going to be something you see in a Superman comic book. It's raw and it's gritty, it's textural. At the same time, it's simple. It reminds me more of maybe European comic sensibilities than what we might think of mainstream America art style.
People have described Sammy the Mouse as nightmarish and terrifying. And again, I don't mean to be coy. I think it's hilarious. I mean, I think it's really funny. I want it to be like a fun comic to read. My process is again, every cartoonist process is different. Mine is one of the dumbest processes I've ever heard of in my life, and I would change it if I could, but I can't. I write my stuff in the language of comics, where I'm not, the words and the pictures are not separate, discrete things. They're part of the same reading experience, and it's the push-pull between them that kind of makes things happen. Some sequences I have completely worked out, and others I'm kind of waiting for, you know, I know this thing needs to happen at this point, and I know that this thing needs to happen at this point, but it might take me a good long while to figure out what goes in between. I want somebody someday to do some psychological profile of cartoonists and what kind of person it takes who would want to sit in a room creating this whole world by themselves with no input and then send it out in a way that they're not going to hear much, you know. Like, I think it takes a really specific kind of person to do that. A lot of them are bonkers. And also the other thing about cartooning is I've finally gotten semi-comfortable with the fact that staring at the wall is like one of the biggest parts of my process. When I was growing up, there was basically superhero comics, and that was the name of the game. There's way more knowledge and acceptance of comics now than there was even 10 years ago. And I think 10 years from now, it'll be even more so. I feel like comics can do anything, and anybody who thinks they can't are wrong. And with comics, you have one person. It's just it can be like a very, very singular vision that's coming across. And I think all the best cartoonists, that's why it's great, you know. Reading a good comic by somebody who's doing that is an experience unlike any other art form. If art is anything, it's like taking these things that aren't in the world and getting them out into the world somehow. And you got to figure out how to make that happen. You know, if it's a comic, you got to figure out how to get that out of your brain and get it onto paper. And there's just more stuff that I want to do. And it looks like this is the way I'm doing it. So there's no point in stopping now, you know.
Minnesota Original is made possible by the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.